Target, and I am so thrilled to be here in a room with just such a beautiful, vibrant, gorgeous, talented group of women. So thank you guys for joining us. And I'm actually, if you guys want to jump on stage, so I want to welcome Tabitha Brown and Lisa Roth to the stage. And we can go ahead and take a seat if we want.
All right. And very good.
We actually already started the conversation.
We did.
In the conference room. It is
Real conversation.
These conversations are so important to be in a room filled with women having the real conversation. One of my leaders, a male leader on my team, asked if he could join, and I said, he wanted to meet some of the leaders too, and I was like, no, you can't be there. We can't talk about menopause.
No.
Right.
If you're in the room. So we're hoping to have a real conversation today, and we kicked it off, like I said, in the conference room.
I should have brought that little
That
fan
is the conversation we just
That
had.
is the conversation that we just had.
Yes.
So we're here today to really gather and celebrate the journeys of women, and I'm here obviously with two very, very special women on stage. And I don't know, is Jasmine? Where's Jasmine? There she is. She's our amazing leader who oversees experiential. So thank you, Jasmine, for organizing and getting us here today. I was on a call with Jasmine last week, and we were planning for this event, and she referred to these two women as Renaissance women. And in that moment, the reaction in the room was like, is that something we say? Like, do we call women Renaissance women? And she's like, Beyonce, hello. And I'm like, okay, fair. So I took the time leading up to this to ask a couple of my new friends. So ChatGPT and Gemini, I asked, what is define a modern day Renaissance woman? And so this is what I read and learned, and I think really defines the both of you. So characterized by her insatiable thirst for knowledge, cultivates intellectual curiosity, versatility, creativity, and empathy, displays extraordinary self-knowledge, develops a vision for life, and dares to follow her dreams, and last but not least, lives fully. So I think this just really epitomizes these two women.
I'll take that. Yes.
So maybe just to do a quick introduction to both these beautiful women. So I'm actually going to start with Lisa. So Lisa is our Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Target, and one of my very favorite colleagues. In her role, she oversees core marketing functions such as creative, guest marketing strategy, retail brand experience, and media, probably most importantly, the beloved brand of Target. And Tabitha is a two-time Emmy-nominated actress, two-time New York Times best-selling author, four-time NAACP Image Award winner, vegan foodie, and social media personality. And I'm so glad that my bio is not being read on stage today. So again, please join me in welcoming these two to the stage. So I was actually joking, I'm Monique. So Monique and I were having a conversation as all of you were joining us. And we were talking about how, don't you have this moment, you have this moment when you get to Cannes where you're like, how did I get here? How did this happen? How did I land in this spot? And when I reflect on those moments, I actually think for me, equal parts privilege, support, and hard work are probably how I got to this room. And so I grew up in a family that really valued education, had the means to send me to a good university. They valued hard work, and I worked my butt off. I think if you are in this room, you work hard. You've worked really hard to get here, and I've been supported by amazing people along the way. My family, my husband, mentors, peers. So I thought that might be a good place to start with the two of you, which is maybe to ground the audience in your journeys. Those moments maybe that have defined your journey along the way, just to get people grounded in who you are, get the group grounded in who you are. And whoever wants to start.
Well, I can start.
Yeah.
I think I'm from Eden, North Carolina. It's a very small town. And my family, my daddy worked in the mill. My mama was a social worker later in life after, I didn't see you right there. After also working in the mill, she went back to school, community college, and became a social worker, but very hard workers. My daddy worked 48 years. He missed 12 days of work before he retired in his 48 years. So that's what I come from, right? Hard work. But I was this little girl who just always had big dreams. I always wanted to entertain, and at the family cookouts, and I'm out there dancing, I'm reading joke books. I'm like, I'm gonna get them this week, okay? And my mom and my daddy used to always say, girl, we don't know where you came from. Like, how do you have these dreams to do all these things? But it was just something I was born with. I truly believe that God deposited this dream inside of me to what I thought was to perform, but what I realized it was to make people feel. And whether that is laughter, whether that's joy, whether it's emotions and somebody needs to cry, to make people feel loved and seen, and to feel like, oh, you have a friend in me. So that's kind of how I am rooted in everything I do now, even, as a performer, as an actress, as a writer, as an entrepreneur. But everything that I do, I feel, is rooted in helping people feel.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah.
I love it. And you're amazing at helping people feel. I had a 1-hour Zoom call with you when we were working on food, and I remember just walking away from that filled with light and feeling, like true emotion, which does not happen on every 1-hour Zoom call that we have in our days. It is a gift, and we're very grateful that you bring that to so many people and together with Target. As far as my journey goes, or key moments, I have not always been the executive vice president and chief marketing officer of Target, and it is still kind of surreal. I grew up in the Chicago area, and I love your combination of hard work and privilege. I came from a family where education was really important, but for my mom, that came later in life. So my mom had a high school diploma, met my dad, kind of went through college as an adult, and then it was really important to her that I do that later. And she was the biggest influence on my life. I'm an only child. My dad passed away when I was 11. And so since I was 11, it was my mom and I. That was my family. And I remember so clearly, after he died, we needed to sell our house. And I remember my mom sitting down with me and it's showing me different houses in the area and helping her figure out what we should price our house at 11. And I look back at the trust that she had in me and the responsibility that she gave me. And when I think about what I do today and the fact that so much of the job is making decisions without all of the information, I think she really early on instilled in me that I could do that. It gave me this confidence, especially being from a family then of only women, that of course you should be able to grow up and do these big things because that's what I saw. And she had a lot of trust that led to that later on. And so that is probably the core of who I am, is coming from her, and mostly her, from a pretty young age.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and Tab, you had a very special relationship with your mom as well, too, and she was, I think, a huge influence on who you are today. And
Absolutely. Yeah, my mama was just a woman who I feel like she just gave a master's class every day in grace and compassion for people. She taught me that everybody has something to offer, right? No matter where you're from or where you are, we all have something good inside of us to give to the world. And so, yeah, absolutely, she was amazing.
Beautiful. And it's so interesting that your mom also went to school when she was, later in life. Same with my mom. And I like you just reflecting on like how hard she worked to. I mean, she carried the family and went and put herself through school. And so it's those moments are important. And we think about the multifaceted lives that we're all leading as women. Tabitha, you came to us through it. I think I want people to understand the partnership that we have with you and that you have with Target. And so maybe could you take us through that part of your journey, how you got connected to Target and what it means to you to be connected to the brand? And
it's one of my favorite stories. It was very organic, right? I always tell people, because I get asked all the time, like, girl, how you get with Target? It was very organic. I was doing content. I had been doing content for a couple of years. And Pamela, right there. Oh, right? Yes, Pamela. Come on, Pamela Brown. I call her my cousin Brown, honey. The Brown girls. But there was I guess we call it Target Family. Is we still call it that? Yes. My managers were like, oh, they want to, have you join Target Family, where you do organic content using different products. but never selling anything, because I don't like to sell things. I like to just show you how I live my life. And if you see that, you're like, oh, what she got? What's she eating? And so I was doing those videos, and I guess they did very well, right? And so they were like, do you want to do something bigger? You know, you have any other ideas? And I kind of gave Pamela like my wish list of things. And when they came back with the things that they were thinking, I was like, well, honey, very good. And they had this idea. This is a true story. I was like, well, you know, sometimes it's more than you can imagine. And you have to be open to that when God wants to bless you. And so it started off organically with doing content, but it ended up with LTO collections all over the store. She's wearing one of them right now. I did clothing and I did apparel and accessories. I did furniture for your office, stationery. Then of course I did food and kitchen, and then outdoor entertainment. And I was the first to ever do the whole store like that. And so I was like, oh, I like doing things like that have never been done. And it did so well that I now am evergreen in food and kitchen.
And nobody could find your popcorn.
And everything sells out. It sells out very quickly. But the partnership feels like family. You know, I call it a partnership, but it really feels like family. And the thing that I love about Target is they've never tried to change me. They've always said, girl, we like you just as you are. You know, I'm country. I don't have my accent no more. I show up just like this. I got a good old afro, okay? And they embrace all of it, who I am. And so, yeah, that's how it started, and we still go together.
Love it, love it. And Lisa, were you involved in the partnership?
I was. Yeah. So prior to this role, I was leading the food merchandising business, and that was where we had the initial Zoom call I referred to earlier. But Tabitha just brought such an amazing sense of herself to every piece of the product, which is, you know, what I think made it. It's exactly what you're talking about, and we have no desire to change that. We want to channel that, and I think in food we were able to do that in such a way that resonated. The packaging is gorgeous. You look at the colors here, like we're able to bring that story to life in the packaging. And for me in the food business, it's vegan food with flavor. I mean, it tastes so good, and that was uncompromising on every piece of it. Everything that we tasted or we cooked up in the test kitchen had to be really, really good. And so it just filled. It was that rare type of partnership that fills an actual consumer void that people were looking for, as they wanted to add more to their diets. And so it was success all around. We were so excited to be able to bring it back in line.
Good, yeah. Even with the colors. Yeah. It's so funny you said that, because when people would walk into the store and they would do their own content, they would say, girl, we walked in and we knew it was your stuff. Mm-hmm. It looks like Tab. Right yeah. It tastes like Tab, like it feels like me. So, yeah. So thank you for that.
Of course. Yeah, we're so glad that you're part of the Target family. So to transition us to talk about just the lives of women and the multifaceted lives that we lead, and maybe just have a discussion around grounding ourselves in uncertainty. So, you know, as women, I mean, even the stories of that you shared about yourselves and the stories of your moms, we're often managing through uncertainty ourselves, but also carrying people through that uncertainty at the same time. And I'm curious if either of you or both of you have a story around when you were managing yourself through uncertainty, maybe from a career perspective, and what you do to stay grounded. How do you stay grounded through uncertainty?
Sure, I can start. Lots of times where I was uncertain from a career perspective, but one I was thinking about coming into this was there was a point at Target where I was in a job that I kind of didn't raise my hand to do, agreed to do because Target needed somebody to do it. And it wasn't one that I wanted to stay in forever, and I knew that. And I had been working with 2 different kind of sponsors, you know, people who were in leadership roles higher up than me on roles that were going to open on their teams. And I was looking to that, and I was so certain that that was the plan for me, that I was going to go to one of these 2 roles. And then in the fashion that we share, kind of a news at Target, we all got called into a conference room for an announcement. So here's what's happening with these jobs. And I found out in that conference room with everybody else that both of those jobs had gone to other people. And I was devastated. Like, went down to the parking garage, cried my eyes out. Like, I was convinced that I was done. I mean, I can't give it enough context. Like, I had staked every hope on that. And the fact that it just came through like that without an explanation for me, I didn't know what to do with that. And I went to a different woman who was not one of the stakeholders involved there, and just shared, I shared my tears and shared where I was at. And there was no easy answer that day. I mean, the truth was people were better suited for the jobs than I was, or they wanted something that I didn't offer in those jobs, in those candidates. And that's really, really hard news to take. And what I found helped me through that was being able to have honest conversations with people who I felt cared about me as a person that could see me through it. And that's what when I think about, like, well, I'm sure we'll talk about mentorship and things like that, but when I think about building those relationships at work, there's nothing that's more important to me than authenticity. Like, I need to have somebody that I can talk to and be myself and share all of those things. And the fact that I had built that up and was able to go to somebody with my tears to kind of lick my wounds is what ultimately got me through it. And it helped me refocus on what's important to me. Why am I here? Do I still want to be here? Despite all that, like working through all the things. But I needed somebody that I could truly trust to talk to when things were really tough.
Was it a peer or was it a mentor?
It was a mentor. It was
Okay.
somebody a level above me.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
I've just found as my career has progressed that I lean on peers a lot more.
Yeah.
And lean on peer mentors and women that are going through the same things that I'm going through.
Yeah, it was somebody who had been a peer. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, the relationship definitely formed when we were.
Interesting. Anything from you? Or?
When we think about, and for me, when I think about moments where I had to kind of ground myself, I think about the journey of my life, right? I spent my whole life from my childhood to my young, 20s pursuing acting, trying to figure out how can I become this amazing actress that I have dreamt of being my whole life. And even into my 30s, I did this. I moved to California to pursue this dream, and it was starting to take off for me. I was doing stand-up because I was trying to get a TV show, right? I heard that they'd be giving comedians TV shows, so I was like, let me go out here and do a little stand-up. I was trying everything I could. I was taking classes. I was doing all these things. I had started booking, and I had just went to Sundance Film Festival, and this was 2016 in January. And a week after I got home, I woke up with a headache in the back of my head, and that headache rested there for a year and 7 months, and I got very sick. And could not figure out what was wrong with me, right? Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. My body just started to attack itself. And in this whole journey, I was no longer really able to pursue my acting during this time. I was on disability because I also had a job because I wasn't a working actress, okay? I was pursuing. But I was on disability and just trying to figure out, like, God, did you bring me this far just to leave me here? Like, what is next for me? And in this season, I had a dream, and I had saw myself on a show. And the thing about me as a child, my whole entire life, I have the gift of dreaming. My dreams come to pass. They send me messages. It's just how I was born. And so when I woke up and I prayed, I said, God, reveal that to me. What was this show that I was on? And I heard a voice that said, start doing videos. And I was like, absolutely not. I ain't doing no videos. I am a trained actress. A broke one, but a trained one. Why would I do videos, right? But this is when I had to really get grounded in, well, can I do something different than I've done before to get to where God wants me to be? Am I living a life for me or for other people? Because I realized for many years I was conforming and I was living my life for others. I was putting so many people before myself. And so I started doing content simply because God spoke to me and told me to do so. But I had to be rooted in myself. I had to be in alignment. And I couldn't worry about what other people were thinking anymore. Because that's the thing that will get us all distracted. When we're so focused on what somebody else is thinking or what they think about you or what they might say about you. That's how I used to live my life. And so I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to show up every day, afraid, but I'm going to do it. And it's the very thing that changed my life. Mm-hmm. Doing content, I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do content about. And then weeks later, of course, my daughter came home from school one day. Was like, Mom, you should watch this documentary. And it was What the Hell. And I had been sick for so long, and I started watching it, and I was like, oh, maybe I should try to go vegan, see if it'll help me. And I did a 30-day vegan challenge. And after the 30 days, I never went back because I started to feel well. And after that, I told my husband, like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to go vegan. Yeah. And the moment I said that, the same voice that I'd heard that told me to start doing videos was like, now tell people what you're eating in your videos. That's the only reason I ever started it. But if I wasn't grounded in who I was becoming and who I am, I would have never done that. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that changed my life.
What an amazing story.
Yeah.
I just think that grounding is so critical. Like, if I just to build on that, but the next chapter for me, so didn't get the jobs, ended up in the tears, talked to the mentor. I spent 6 months like journaling, reflecting, like where should I be? Should I stay here? I don't know what I want to do next. I remember I was reading a book. I finished a book. It was Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, and I put it down. And again, I started crying. I actually don't cry that much, but I did.
I've never seen you cry. I've never seen you cry.
I had to let it out. Like, there was just so much that had come up, and I put the book down, and I said a prayer, and I said, please, God, just tell me, like, what am I supposed to do next? Do I stay here, or is this the time? Like, just tell me where I'm supposed to go. That night, the mentor that I had gone to help me through this called me and offered me my next job. And I was like, okay, this is it. I'm supposed to stay.
Wow.
And I did. And it's just that job then led to a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah. And from there, my sense would be that you've gained more of a perspective on who you are and confidence. And I love that you, like, everything that you talked about is rooted in faith, but also belief in yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, diet is so diet is so important. Somebody mentioned that they're doing vegan one day a week, which I haven't quite done that yet. But I'll eat your dips and your popcorns, but I'll do all of it one day at a time.
One day at a time, one meal at a time.
So much of mental health is tied back to diet. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another really big theme that stands out, and it's probably the most obvious theme when we're talking about women in leadership, is the fact that we're leading these multifaceted lives, right? We're moms, we're caretakers, we're leaders, we're friends. I have learned, and actually some of the best advice that I got was very early in my career. It was when I was pregnant with my first daughter. I had a leader share with me that balance doesn't happen in a day. It happens over time, right? It happens, like, you have to release the guilt and give yourself the grace to understand that there are days that you're going to give more to your family. There are days that you're going to give more to your work, and that over time is when the balance happens, and you've got to release the guilt, give yourself grace. And so I'm thinking about, for both of you, obviously leading very multifaceted lives, how do you think about balance? And what are some of the things, again, that you've done to try to juggle all that life brings your way? You go first.
I think balance is what we make it, right? So I love my family, right? And for me, family is first after me. Like, it's Tab and then family, because I can't take care of my family if I'm not well. But I didn't do that for a long time. So making sure that I'm okay, but making sure my family is well. Then for me, it's my career. That's the bonus. I get to do those things. I get to have this life. But a good schedule, right? I got to keep a schedule. My calendar, if it ain't on the calendar, it don't exist. Like, that's really how I live my life now. But also scheduling breaks for myself to make sure I don't become overwhelmed, whether it is with family or with work stuff. Because sometimes family be overwhelming. Yep. Them people that you were born into. But they can be overwhelming. You be like, well, Lord, I'm going to need a little break from you, you know? But that's balance. And you got to also know when not to feel bad about that. Because sometimes we will give, and pour, and we're empty, and we don't feel well. And then we're wondering why we're depressed and why we don't, want to show up. It's because you weren't putting yourself first in that moment to make sure you feel balanced personally before you try to balance everything else in your world. So that's kind of how I live my life.
That's great. Yeah, and you also run on a schedule.
I do. I'm very boring. Is the reality of it. I do. That's the tactical for me. I'm very disciplined. I go to bed early. I work out every day. I do a lot of Peloton. Every day. But so the discipline enables me to keep every day in line with my priorities. Like getting a good night's sleep comes first. That means I have more to give to the kids, but that means I have more to give to myself. But getting to the me first was the hardest part of my journey. I remember I have 2 kids now, they're 11 and 9, and when my daughter, who's 9, was 4 years old, I was doing nothing for myself. I did not work out. I, ate whatever, but I just couldn't take the time to work out, but I really, really wanted to. Like, I would talk about it and think about it constantly, and I'd never, ever do it. And I had the amazing experience of having a coach through a program that we did at Target, and he was actually a psychologist, which was the best thing. And we spent an hour digging into this, and he pushed me so hard on why I wasn't doing it. And he asked me, like, why, if you say you want to work out, why aren't you doing it? And I was like, I don't have time. And he was like, no one has time. Like, nope, nice try. Like, keep going. Why do you think you're not doing it? And I was like, kept going. And the real reason was guilt. If I was going to take an hour with these 2 babies at home, that meant my husband had to watch the 2 babies, and I felt horrible about that. Why? They're his children as well, but I felt horrible about it because I already gave so much time to the job. So was it going to take another hour out of the day to go do something for myself? Like, I could not mentally get there until we had this conversation. And it became this breakthrough where I left that feeling like, not only would it be okay, it might actually be better for all of us.
Yeah.
And from then on, that went to the top of the list. And I am also a disciplined scheduler. Every day there is an hour, and it's not going to be the same hour. It's never worked for me to say, I'm going to do a class every Tuesday, Thursday at 7 o'clock. Like, my life is not that way. But if it's not Tuesday at 7 o'clock, I will schedule a break at lunch and I will go work out. Like, that hour comes first, and everything else then cascades off of that, which is what then fuels the ability to do all the things. But the hardest part is actually saying it's okay to put yourself first.
It is the hardest part, right?
It's self-care, though.
It's self-care, and
Yeah.
it's, again, like releasing the guilt over, like, why should you feel guilty about needing an hour to dedicate to yourself every day?
I think mom guilt was sold to us.
Yeah.
Like, it was sold to us and we bought it. But it is time to return
And
it.
we've decided to put it down.
Okay.
Decided to put it down.
Honey, return it. Get our money back. Okay. We don't care about the return policy. We're gonna give it back. But yeah, that's it was something that was, you think back in the old days where women were in the kitchen at home. Those days are gone, right? So it's like we don't have to feel guilty anymore. We are running businesses. We work. We have children. We got all these things happening, so we shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys hear that? No more
Yeah,
guilt.
no more guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I would have learned, honestly, I wish I would have learned that
Yeah.
that earlier. And it is something that has evolved over time, and I
Yeah.
still have to fight. I still
Yeah.
have to fight it from time to time. So, Lisa, you mentioned mentorship, and of course, I think we've all leaned on other women and mentors along the way. I'm thinking, as we become more senior leaders within our organizations and in our communities, how you think about your role in supporting other women.
I think it's it's a responsibility and a privilege to be able to support other women, and that, especially as I get older and get into the next stages of my career, like, that is where I want to spend my time. If I can help somebody who's coming up, like, see the light, see the possibilities, see what's possible for them, that is the most cup-filling part of any day. I was going through recently and looking through kind of like my roster of here's all the active mentorships that I have, and right now they're all women. Which was, I didn't even realize it, but I was reflecting on why. And I do think the number one most important criteria for me in a mentee is somebody who's going to be open and honest and authentic with me. And I just will say that I have found that more often with women in my career. And so I dedicate a lot of time there. And then I still want to receive it too. And right now, what's working for me is a group of peer kind of mentors that I have that don't work at Target. They're women that I went to school with that are scattered all over the country. We call each other our board of directors because if you put board of directors on your calendar, nobody will schedule over it. It's true. It's how it started, and it works. And we get together, we'll do Zooms, but we get together one weekend a year. And that is the time where, like, they don't work at Target, but they kind of get it. And you can have open and honest conversations, and some are moms and some are not. But they are people that I can just turn to and be there for them. You know, it's reciprocal, but I have value that. That's another weekend. It's really hard to say, sorry, you guys, I'm going to be gone for the weekend, especially. But it is everything to me.
Yeah, good for you. I feel like I need a board of directors meeting now too. Yeah.
I just made a mental
Did you
note,
make a
board of
mental note
directors.
too?
Okay,
so
got
we're
it.
all gonna do
Yep.
it. You just everybody in the room now has a board of directors. That's great.
Yes, I love it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, one last question. This has been incredible, by the way, and thank you so much for joining us. If you could give one last piece of advice to the women in the crowd, maybe one last piece of life or career advice, and if
I
you
don't
can't
want to
think
follow.
of anything, just
I'm not
wrap
going to
up
follow
everything.
Tabitha
Yeah.
Brown on life advice, so I will go first.
Yeah.
I think that my mom's advice to me was always very simple, and someday I will get a tattoo that represents this in some way, but it was always follow your heart. And when in doubt, that is what I come back to in terms of what choice do I need to make. And there's so much noise. There's so many signals. There's so many things telling us what we need to be doing and what we need to care about all of the time. Like, that is my centering piece of advice, and the rest of it does work out. It's not always what you envision. It's not always the path that you think is so clear. But being able to stay true to that has been what's kept me centered and in a good space.
I love it. Very similar. I would just say you are enough. We always should remember that. Show up your way, and you can also do it differently. That's it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you both so much spending the time with us today. And hopefully everybody enjoyed the conversation on just these two phenomenal women, and that you've taken the moment to reflect on your own journey. So I hope everybody enjoys Can. We've got, if you haven't done it yet, we've got permanent bracelet making, which, by the way, we thought were tattoos. Lisa and I thought, well, that's not. It's just you can't. So no If you want tattoos, go to Pinterest space. They have real tattoos. We don't have real tattoos. Yeah, tattoos. You can get piercings, tattoos. Where are the Pinterest?
Oh, I
people?
might go.
Yeah,
I might go.
Right?
I might
Are
go
you
live
doing
on the
tattoos
edge.
this
Yeah,
year?
I didn't even see you there.
We'll talk. Yeah. So if you want a tattoo, you can get it here.
Okay, all
That
right.
might be your moment. You just said you want to get a tattoo.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live on the edge.
Live on the edge. Live on the edge. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
joining us.
you.